How do you collect on invoices without losing the client? That's what I'm talking about today on the Biz Chat. One of the biggest challenges when you run a service agency is cash flow, getting paid on time and making sure that you've got money coming in as well as going out. So when you have monthly expenses that you pay, rent, payroll biweekly, software costs, there's all kinds of things that you spend money on that come out on a regular basis. And yet sometimes you're waiting weeks, even months to get a check-in from a client. And this can make managing your cash flow super difficult. So how do you get around this situation? First, I'm going to talk about ways to avoid getting into this cash flow crunch situation in the first place, and then other strategies for how to actually collect from a client without killing the relationship. So first, a little story. I once had a client who ran a commercial real estate company, and we had designed their website to have social media buttons, but when we launched the site, they actually said they weren't ready. They couldn't launch their Facebook page or their Twitter page, and which was fine. But they said they weren't paying the final invoice because the original design had social media buttons, and yet they weren't ready to launch their social media site. Well, their site was still launched. So they were trying to weasel their way out of paying, and I wasn't having any of that. So I actually went into their content management system and kicked them out of it and said, like, you're denied. You cannot log in and edit your website until you pay the final invoice. Well, a check was cut that afternoon. We got paid for it. I had to go to kind of extreme measures to get paid. You shouldn't have to do that. You know, clients can be shitty. So how do you avoid this in the first place? There's a few ways to make sure that this doesn't happen. So first of all, one thing is to not wait until the end of a job to invoice the full amount. It kind of goes without saying, yet a lot of people do it. They'll go and they'll do a job, they'll put in the weeks and the hours, and then they'll invoice the project at the end of it, and then they wonder why it's hard to, sustain their cash flow. So make sure that when you close a deal with a new client, when everybody's happy and the ink isn't yet dry on the contract, that you're invoicing at least 50% of the project or splitting it up into equal monthly payments. Not doing it based on certain milestones being met because if a client delays with their content, for example, or giving you a design approval or what have you. If you're waiting to invoice installments based on their approval, then you can be waiting a long time. So that's one way to make that easier. The next point is to stop putting net 15, net 30, net 60 day payment terms in your invoices. You're basically just inviting the client to not pay their invoice on time. Some clients ask for longer payment terms. I think you should be putting due upon receipt on every invoice, not giving them any sort of payment days. As soon as they get that invoice, they should be working on paying it, not waiting a month. No, nothing works that way, right? They don't go and order groceries and then pay the grocery bill in 30 days. They don't wait 30 days to get their own personal paycheck. And neither should you. There's just no reason around that. The client should be paying it as soon as they get the invoice. Now, a client might say, well, we're part of a big machine. I'm not in the accounting department. I don't have the ability to choose payment terms. There's a couple ways around that. One, you could just be hardline and just say, this is our policy, like it or lump it. Another one would be to say, well, we have to hold off on work until we get paid. So if we send an invoice through and a week goes by and it's not paid, the work stops. We don't do anything until we're paid. If that's too hard, if that's too strong-arming the client, then just make friends with Gladys in accounts payable or Charlie or whoever it is. Go and make friends with the person in the accounting department. Make sure they see your face, they know your name, you've brought them cookies, you're talking about Netflix and TV shows with them. Being their buddy is the best thing, because then when they see your name on an invoice, they're going to associate your face and think, I like that person, I want to make sure I pay them on time. Next, you'll really want to push for online billing. It's kind of crazy when you think about it that nowadays in 2017, when this video is published, that clients still want to be mailed a piece of paper and then take that piece of paper and write their a name on another piece of paper and then mail that piece of paper so you can take that paper down to your bank and get it deposited. Checks are archaic, right? There's no reason why they shouldn't be making bank transfers or paying through PayPal or paying through Stripe or Square or whatever online system you use for online billing. There's just no reason why they shouldn't be doing that. You should be pushing for that. Sometimes the client doesn't even know that's an option. That's just the way they do things, is they write checks. So if you can push for that, that'll help with your cash flow. I talked about payment structures a little bit, but once again, it's important to reiterate, getting paid regularly is important. So monthly retainers are a great way to even out your cash flow and get paid on a regular basis. Sometimes a client thinks that they're just paying a one-off payment for a project, when really they're going to need maintenance and support and ongoing refinement or ongoing marketing, measurement. Like, there's all kinds of services you can be offering your clients. So work on selling monthly retainers instead of just selling one-off projects. It's better for you because you get paid more regularly, and sometimes it's better for your client because they get to even out their cash flow and not have these giant lump sum payments that they need to make. So you've implemented all these processes and systems, and yet you still get a delinquent payer. What do you do in that situation? A couple of things. One is, don't just email the client and say, hey, checking in on that invoice, can you pay it sometime? Pick up the phone, because emails are the easiest thing in the world to ignore, right? But if you get them on the phone, it's a lot more awkward for them. They'll feel like an asshole for not paying the payment on time, and then they'll be like, okay, I'm gonna take care of this. I'm gonna make sure that you get paid. A great time to talk about this with the client is when they come back to you for new work. So you might have a client who owed you money on the last job, and then they come back to you and they say, hey, we want you guys to do something else for us. This is a prime opportunity to bring it up and say, hey, thanks for bringing the business my way. Would love to help you out, but you guys were late last time paying. If I'm going to take this on, I need you to assure me that you're going to pay on time. And that might be enough to get them to clean up their act a little bit. Finally, have some type of leverage over your clients. So don't just give them everything and then hope that they pay you. Make sure you withhold something from them. That could be passwords to the content management system, like I alluded to earlier. It could be not launching the website, not giving them access to the accounts, not sending the print files to the printer, whatever kind of final deliverable it is. If you can withhold something, then you at least have some kind of leverage. If the client just sucks and they're trying to get out of paying you, you can say, hey, well, you're not getting this final thing until you pay up. And sometimes that's all that's needed to get them to pay. A couple final tips to even out your cash flow. Make sure that you mark up whatever you're paying on the client's behalf. So if you're buying things for the client, buying media, buying stock photography, paying contractors, make sure you're marking it up by at least 30%. There's nothing that says that if the client's getting you to buy things on their behalf that you shouldn't be applying a markup. You're providing a service just by making it easier for the client and giving them, one-stop shopping. They should be fine with you marking it up. It's worth it for that risk to your own cash flow. Collect on invoices as soon as they're due. So sometimes agencies wait until 30 days or 60 days to even begin looking at their past due receivables. And by then you've kind of signaled to the client that getting paid on time isn't really that important to you. So if you're collecting on them very quickly after they're sent, then that signals to the client, hey, getting paid is important. I'm a priority, and they will make you a priority. I hope these tips were really helpful. If you have any other questions or comments, please leave them below. Make sure that you subscribe to us on YouTube, also on iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Play. We're everywhere, so make sure you subscribe to get more information, including our weekly email. Sign up to that to get new great content every week. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.